Hello everyone, and welcome to Lesson 3 to 4, titled Fundamentals of Cybersecurity. In this session, we are going to explore one of the most critical topics in our increasingly digital world: how we protect ourselves, our data, and our systems from online threats. As our personal lives, businesses, governments, and infrastructure become more reliant on digital systems, cybersecurity becomes more than just a technical term. It becomes a matter of safety, trust, and resilience. Whether you're using email, online banking, cloud storage, or smart home devices, your data is at risk if the proper security measures aren't in place. Today, we will break down the fundamentals of cybersecurity in a clear, approachable way. You don't need to be an IT professional to understand the core concepts we're discussing. This lecture is designed for everyone, especially those in leadership, policy, or education who need to make informed decisions about technology and safety in the digital space. Let's start by defining what cybersecurity is. Simply put, cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, networks, and data from digital attacks. These attacks often aim to access, change, or destroy sensitive information, interrupt services, or extort money from users. You've probably heard of terms like malware, viruses, hacking, or phishing. All of these are part of the broad category of cyber threats that cybersecurity aims to prevent. Now, let's talk about some of the most common threats people face today. Understanding the threats is the first step toward knowing how to prevent them. One of the most familiar forms of cyber attack is malware. The word malware stands for malicious software. These are programs that are designed to harm a system or steal information. Malware comes in many forms, including viruses, which replicate themselves and spread, worms, which do not need a host program to spread, and Trojans, which disguise themselves as harmless software to trick users into installing them. Another growing threat is phishing. This is a form of social engineering, which means it relies on tricking people rather than breaking technical systems. In phishing, attackers pretend to be trustworthy sources, such as your bank, an online service, or even a friend or coworker, and try to get you to share sensitive information, like passwords or credit card numbers. They might send you an email that looks official but contains a dangerous link or attachment. Ransomware is another type of attack that has been increasing in recent years. In a ransomware attack, a hacker locks or encrypts your data and demands money to unlock it. These attacks can be devastating, especially for hospitals, schools, or local governments that rely on their data to function. These are just a few examples of the threats we face. The key point here is that cybersecurity is not just about technology, it's about behavior. Many attacks succeed not because the technology failed, but because someone was tricked, rushed, or unaware. So how do we protect ourselves? One of the first lines of defense in cybersecurity is something very simple: strong passwords. This may sound basic, but weak passwords are still one of the most common causes of security breaches. People tend to use easy-to-remember passwords like 1234556, auth password, or reuse the same password across multiple sites. These practices are extremely risky. A strong password is one that is long, complex, and unique. Ideally, it should contain a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. It should not include easily guessable information like your birthday, pet's name, or favorite sports team. Since remembering dozens of complex passwords is difficult, one solution is to use a password manager. This is a secure application that stores and manages your passwords for different accounts. You only need to remember one strong master password to access all the others. Another important layer of protection is multi-factor authentication, also known as two-factor authentication. This is when you are asked to provide more than just your password to log into an account. For example, you might enter your password and then receive a code on your phone that you must enter as well. Even if someone has your password, they still can't get in without the second factor. This dramatically increases the security of your accounts. Next, let's talk about firewalls. A firewall is a tool that helps filter out harmful or unauthorized traffic between your device and the internet. You can think of it as a digital security guard that checks who's trying to access your system and decides whether to let them in or keep them out. Firewalls are used in personal devices, in business networks, and at national levels. There are two main types of firewalls: software firewalls and hardware firewalls. A software firewall is a program installed on your device. A hardware firewall is a separate device that sits between your network and the internet. For most users, the built-in firewall in their computer or router provides a basic but important layer of protection. Along with firewalls, antivirus software plays an essential role. This software scans your system regularly to detect and remove malicious programs. Modern antivirus tools can even block suspicious behavior before a virus does damage. It's important to keep antivirus programs updated so they can recognize the latest threats. Let's pause here and think about how all these elements, passwords, multi-factor authentication, firewalls, antivirus tools, work together. Think of cybersecurity like the security of your house. You lock the doors. You may install an alarm. You don't share your key with just anyone. And you pay attention if something seems suspicious. Cybersecurity works the same way. You build layers of defense to make it harder for attackers to succeed. Another key component of cybersecurity is understanding safe online behavior. This includes things like not clicking on suspicious links, not downloading attachments from unknown sources, and not sharing personal information with strangers. It also means keeping your operating system and software up to date. Many updates include patches that fix known security issues. If you don't install them, you leave your system vulnerable. Now let's turn to how cybersecurity applies at the organizational and national level. For governments, companies, and institutions, the stakes are even higher. Cyber attacks can lead to the loss of sensitive data, financial damage, service interruptions, and even threats to national security. Large organizations use more advanced cybersecurity systems. These include intrusion detection systems that monitor for suspicious activity, encrypted networks that protect data in transit, and access control systems that limit who can see or change sensitive information. But even with all this technology, the human factor remains the most important. Employees must be trained to recognize threats and follow best practices. One careless click on a phishing email can compromise an entire network. That's why cybersecurity awareness training is now a standard part of many organizations' operations. Training helps staff recognize scams, understand safe data handling, and know what to do if they suspect a breach. Let's talk briefly about public policy. As cyber threats have become more dangerous and more common, governments around the world have created laws and regulations to protect citizens and infrastructure. These include privacy laws, data protection regulations, and cybersecurity frameworks that companies and institutions must follow. In some countries, critical infrastructure like power grids, healthcare systems, and transportation networks must meet strict cybersecurity standards. This is because a cyber attack on such systems could have widespread consequences. International cooperation is also increasing, as cybercrime often crosses national borders. Agencies from different countries work together to track and respond to threats. Now let's bring the discussion back to your personal life. What can you do starting today to protect yourself online? First, review your passwords. Make sure you're not using the same one everywhere. Use a password manager if possible. Second, turn on two-factor authentication wherever it's available. This simple step adds a huge boost to your security. Third, think before you click. Don't open links or attachments from people you don't know. Even if the message looks legitimate, it's better to double-check. Fourth, update your software regularly. This includes your operating system, apps, and even your browser. Fifth, consider installing reputable antivirus software if you haven't already. Many modern operating systems come with basic protection, but adding an extra layer can't hurt. Sixth, be cautious with public Wi-Fi. Avoid logging into sensitive accounts over public networks unless you're using a secure connection or a virtual private network, also known as a VPN. Lastly, educate others. Talk to your family, friends, or colleagues about cybersecurity. Share what you've learned. The more people practice safe online habits, the safer we all are. Let me now briefly highlight two common misconceptions. First, some people think they're not important enough to be targeted. That's not true. Many cyber attacks are automated. They scan the internet for weak systems and don't care who you are. If you're vulnerable, you're a target. Second, some people believe antivirus software alone is enough. While it's important, it's only one piece of the puzzle. Good cybersecurity requires a combination of tools, habits, and awareness. Before we wrap up, let's review what we've covered today. We began by defining cybersecurity and understanding why it's important. We looked at common threats like malware, phishing, and ransomware. We discussed key protection tools, including strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, firewalls, and antivirus programs. We talked about how individuals and organizations can reduce their risk by following best practices and staying alert. And we emphasized that cybersecurity is not just about technology, it's also about human behavior and informed decision-making. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. Whether you're a student, a public official, a teacher, or a business owner, you have a role to play in keeping the digital world safe. In our next lesson, we will build on this foundation by exploring the basics of cryptography, the science behind secure communication. You'll learn about concepts like hashing and encryption, and how these tools are used to protect data every day. Thank you for your attention. Stay safe, stay smart, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.